This week on the show, we have a long interview for you with fiction and nonfiction author Michael W. Lucas. So we thought we'd pack this into the full episode and put a couple of questions at the end from the audience. So enjoy this week's episode of BSD Now. BSD Now, episode 267, Absolute FreeBSD, recorded on the 10th of October 2018. Hello, I'm your host, Benedikt Reuschling.
And I'm Alan Jude.
And while everyone is scrambling to look at their mainboards to look for certain chips that don't belong there, little hint from us, take your magnifying glass because they're super micro. We have a little interview for you with Michael W. Lucas, so this is coming up next.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about the super micro thing. With the veracity that Apple and Amazon are denying it, I'm not so sure that the Bloomberg people got it right. Also, some of the technical details in their reporting seem a bit off. Just the way they describe it being between the CPU and the memory, where I think they actually mean that it was between the BMC and the flash, which is not the same thing.
It's more for the TechSnap, actually.
Yeah.
To discuss that.
I'm not so sure exactly what's going on there. And so far, I've seen a bunch of different people who have that exact model of motherboard post pictures where there isn't something that's not supposed to be there.
That's probably from a certain period.
Well, because it has to be put there during manufacturing, it's very difficult to make sure only the right people get it. We'll see. Maybe.
And you would think that they would not only target super micros, they would also target the other motherboards that are manufactured in China.
And we all know that the BMCs have been a security problem on every manufacturer. Dell has the iDracula bug right now, where they have a problem where they can mitigate it, but they can't actually solve it. Only newer generations will be fixed. HP has problems, Lenovo has problems, etc. But we'll wait and see. Maybe we'll have more information over the next week or so.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how it unfolds and what people find out as more details come to light.
These types of supply chain attacks are totally feasible and are likely to be a thing. I'm just not sure if this particular one isn't blown out of proportion yet. Anyway, on to the interview. Enjoy our interview with Michael W. Lucas.
And we're back with our interview with Michael W. Lucas. Welcome back to the show. You've been here countless times now, so we don't need to do big introductions. But it's been a while since you were last on the show, so we might as well catch up on what you've been up to these last years, months. I don't know how long it was.
I think it's a year or so.
Oh, yeah, perfect time to check. Yeah. We saw each other at BSD Can, and that was nice, but other people didn't get the chance who weren't at the conference, so we might as well ask you now and in person.
Well, mostly what I've been doing is trying to make books. I think this is what's come out since I was last on.
So
that's a pretty hefty stack.
Yeah, I think this is the reason I'm here. It's the brand new Absolute FreeBSD 3rd edition, off the printer the day before yesterday. You can still smell the offset printing.
That's the best thing when buying a new book, right? You open the pages and the smell of the fresh print, whatever they put in there, that's just, the knowledge.
Yes. and when you get a case of them, a case is only 10 books because it's pretty heavy. And you first slice that open and the aroma just spills out and fills the whole room. It's the smell of success.
Yeah, and hard work.
Yes, that too.
It's, one part of the payoff.
Yes. And, worst case, Books are excellent insulators. You can level tables with them if they're, seriously out of whack.
It's Detroit, so you can bulletproof your car.
Oh, yes. And I've checked. These particular books burn very easily if you need fire starter.
Yeah, it's the winter season coming, so...
Yes, yeah. I have like 400 copies of the PGP book somewhere around here, so... That's the big news.
Mm-hmm. Well, that took almost a year to write with reviews and all that.
Yes, and then it took... It should have been out at the printer for BSD CAN, but life happened with the publisher. A printing company went under and delayed everything because all of the other companies scrambled to grab some of that business. And yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but it's here, it's out. I think by the time this actually airs, people should start getting it from Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
And No Starch will have their copies and be shipping them out. I just shipped out the copies for my Patreon backers today. They should have it Monday the 8th. Mm-hmm. They should get theirs, and a copy for Bert. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but Regier, who paid to be abused within the pages.
Ah, right. I remember that. Yep, that will be every second page or so.
yeah, pretty much. It's not evenly spread because I can fit more abuse into chapters about managing users than managing the network.
Yeah.
But I hope he's pleased with the quantity of malice and ill will in the pages, as he paid $800 to the FreeBSD Foundation for the privilege.
Yeah, that should be paid back in good.
I hope so. It seems like now that I'm writing full time, more and more, the stupider my idea is, the more people will pay for it.
Mm-hmm. Make a business out of that. Yeah. Can be profitable.
Yep. That's that's what I did for the Ed book, say, and I didn't even tell people what was coming or when it was coming out.
I remember just these vague rumors and innuendo, and I was like, what's this book going to be about, damn it?
And, I told people I was doing my best to rip them off. And they sponsored the book. What?
Lots of people seem very pleased with their copy of the book.
Yeah,
they are. They are. I need to get stupider.
Yeah. So what else was in that stack?
Oh, let's see. There's the Ed book, of course. Mm-hmm. I'm particularly proud of this because I got a quote from Ken Thompson. Nice. Which, yes. I methodically clean out my email to make sure that the inbox stays below 30 messages or so. And that email from Ed Thompson is still in my inbox. I just can't get rid of it.
The prized jewel of the collection. Yeah.
The prized jewel of my unanswered email. Although I did answer it.
You don't have the other edition handy in print?
I do.
Oh, okay.
the Manly McMahon face edition of Ed Mastery with, the testosterone-laden cover. Just for people who think, the folks who write me emails complaining that I use female pronouns in my books, This is for you. I can guarantee there is not a single woman anywhere in this book.
Take your pick, so whatever you like best.
Take your pick.
It costs how much more?
Well, it's economics.
Right.
See, the edition, not many of these will sell, so the price, I believe in print, this is $30. And some of them sell. I choose to believe that those are prank gifts.
Yeah, that's for someone you really like and really want to appreciate with a gift like that.
and since it's months after, I can probably confess this book was all written with first and second person, so I and you. Mm-hmm. There are no male or female pronouns in the book at all.
Yeah, easy to make. Yeah,
I put one in, and you'd have to buy the book to find out exactly where it is.
Yeah, because then you have to buy both editions to make the comparison for each page.
Absolutely,
like every sentence.
Absolutely. The good news is the ebooks are DRM free, so you can just buy the books and run them through diff.
Yeah,
and
as one
here's
does.
Your answer.
Yep.
The other thing is the new edition of SSH Mastery.
Ah, yes, yeah.
And this one, this is a hardback.
Mm-hmm.
It's got nice, sharp, pointy edges.
Yep, for just the time when you need them.
For self-defense?
Yep. Well,
of course.
Self-defense or someone trying to use passwords with SSH. Because, this is a perfectly legal blunt instrument to have in your office.
Yep. Perfectly harmless.
And I've got one new thing here that nobody has seen.
Ooh.
Yeah.
BSD Now exclusive.
BSD Now exclusive. It turns out that hardcovers are really easy to do. It takes about 2 hours on a Saturday night once you've done the first one.
Then you're pretty much in training and you know how to do it.
Yes, the first one is terrible, and then you go, oh, this is nothing. So some of the books I get really nice cover art for it, or I'm biased, but I think it's nice. And I have some books that have wraparound covers where the art goes all the way around. And then I have to deface the art by putting things like a title and a price on them. So I've got here, this is the Relay D book in hardcover.
Without any text.
There is no text. It's just the art.
Ooh.
And you can use the flaps to, put things like the title and author information and the barcode.
Yeah, perfect. So, there's enough space there.
Yes. So this hardcovers are not cheap. I don't make any more on them than I do on a paperback, but the production process is still expensive. Mm. So this is the first ever Relay D Mastery hardcover. I'm actually gonna, as far as I know, this is the only one that exists. And as part of Meet BSD, I'm going to be auctioning this off.
Oh.
I'm taking. I'll be running a auction on my blog, and for this, and for this.
Oh yeah. Both of
I'm
them?
taking them to the con.
And you don't want to leave with them again?
No. Well,
you want to leave, but the books should stay at someone else's hands.
I'm running the auction on my blog, so people can bid from all over the world. But
they don't have to be at the conference.
Yes. I'm going to get developers to sign them. So there is a FreeBSD Dev Summit the day before. And I'm going to corral every FreeBSD dev I can get my mitts on to sign that. So And then any OpenBSD devs I can find, I'll get them to sign this. And that'll be auctioned off for the OpenBSD and FreeBSD foundations.
Nice.
As I like making other people generous.
I'm just glad that first other hardcover wasn't Savage by System D.
I was tempted, but because of the way hardcover prices are, that book would be $30 in hardcover. And no, there's...
And I don't want to know why someone would want that in hardcover.
I don't either.
The content is hard enough, yeah. So
I don't know why someone wants that book, period.
Sure. Did you hear anything from the recording, actually? Yeah. What happened to that one?
To the recording?
Yeah, did it appear somewhere, or is it...
The recording was auctioned off at BSD Can for charity. And Patrick won it. Patrick Kelsey. And it came with a very nice Cat 5 of 9 tails. And if you look around, you can find photographs of various people posing with it. So a good time was had by all except anyone who listened to the recording.
Yeah.
I have to get in touch with Patrick and find out what his plans are with that recording.
Yeah, that's something sinister, yeah.
I think it's fine right where it is.
It's sadly, I think there's just too much laughing and cheering and so on from the audience to actually be able to sell it as an audiobook version.
Yes.
Yeah, the studio recording should be a separate thing, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get George and Benno into a studio to do that again. And it wouldn't be the same even if we did.
No. Really, that audiobook needs to be recorded by someone who understands it, but who has no idea what the content is.
Right.
Because part of the fun was George's and Benno's just growing horror as they realized what they were reading.
Yeah, they both agreed to do it without having ever read it before.
Yes.
Which I was just amazed at how well they managed to do it without having seen the content before. Especially when I opened up my phone, skipped to a random page, and had George read it after he had agreed to do it, but before he had started. And I was just like, do you realize what's going on here? And he's like, oh.
It was for charity.
Yes. So you've got to listen to it, right?
I have heard it.
Yes.
Okay.
I listened for educational reasons.
Right.
Yeah, to see how the words translate into a voice or to a language, in that spoken language. And,
yes, and the question when you write something like that is, do people laugh at the right spot?
Yeah, that's like the same when you write comedy or stage comedy. It's like, that didn't fire, or that didn't came over to the audience, and
yes, and especially when you are writing something that is full of growing, outraged, appalled horror. Yeah, you want to make sure that people give that unwilling, deep down revolted laugh in exactly the right spot.
Yeah. When somebody slipped the dollar bill into George's shirt pocket while he was reading, that really set the mood in the room.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'm torn between wishing I'd been there and being really deeply glad that I wasn't even in the state.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about Absolute FreeBSD 3rd Edition.
Sure. Yeah, let's go on to something happy.
So what should people expect from it?
Well, it weighs about 3.5 pounds.
More pages, yep. More content.
Yeah, a lot of pages.
It weighs more than your laptop probably does. Well, not your laptop. But.
That's
not
saying
my
something.
laptop.
Yeah.
Weighs more than your laptop. Let's see here. What's in this book? I don't know. Well, there's a foreword by Kirk McCusick.
Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend it. Probably the best part of the book. If you've read the earlier editions, this won't be a huge surprise. The main thing I've done is I had to drop coverage of topics like SendMail and setting up a web server because FreeBSD has grown a lot of features. Stuff like all the geom tricks, ZFS, Poudre, a lot of tools like BlacklistD, which personally I'm really loving BlacklistD, and I hope other software adopts it.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Yes. So basically, if you're familiar with Unix, this book will take a Linux or Solaris admin and let them add FreeBSD to their repertoire. I don't go into a huge amount of detail. I mean, you need to know what CD is and LS, but I do give some depth to topics like man pages, for example, because a lot of people know about man pages but don't really know how the searching works. What's the difference between a propos and what is, and
or even just what the different sections in a man page are and where the information you want is actually going to be in the manuals.
Yes. If you go on to a FreeBSD box and type man crypto, you get I think it's an OpenSSL web page or man page, which may be what you want, but there's also a crypto device. And this was actually kind of surprisingly difficult to write. With a lot of new editions, you can simply take the old edition, polish it up, throw some stuff out, add some new things, and you're done. And this FreeBSD has grown a lot in 10 years.
Yeah.
Jails are totally different. ZFS. ZFS was around in the second edition, but it was still new and experimental, and nobody really knew if it was going to stick. So,
but even just looking at the difference between 10 and 12, which is 4 years or so, it's like, wow.
Yes. And this is, second edition was FreeBSD 7.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was time for an update. Yeah.
It's BSDs in general update more quickly than the publishing industry will tolerate releasing new books.
Sure. That they also want to make their fair share of profits.
Yes, they do. But it is time. It's past time.
Yeah, speaking of the Absolute book series, the chat room asks, will there be an Absolute Dragonfly BSD or Absolute Illumos or maybe an Absolute Ninefront?
Well, depends on the market, is the short answer. I've looked at doing some writing on Illumos, really on Open Indiana, or if you prefer, Illumos incarnated as Open Indiana.
In that specific, incarnation.
Yes. Well, people do a lot of different things with it, and I'd have to pick something in particular. The question is one of market. Are there enough people to make it worth my while? Because while people support me, and I'm grateful to everyone, who sends me money for really no good reason. Dragonfly doesn't have a large enough user base yet. NetBSD, the same there. I wish they did. A group like OpenBSD, their market is a little different because as far as I can tell, every single OpenBSD user buys every single OpenBSD product on the market. The sales on the Relay ebook were really interesting because when it first came out, there was this massive surge of sales. Mm. And it looked like, and I was looking at this going, oh my God, I've tapped into this unknown market. If this keeps up, I'm paying off the house.
There's a holiday in there, maybe.
Yes. And after about a week, sales fell off the cliff because everybody ran out and bought it all at once. And don't get me wrong.
Market saturation.
Yes.
Yeah, so, that's tough then. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It was worth writing. I'm going to write more of those books for OpenBSD. But their market, the only reason they're viable is because their people do that.
I do wonder if there's a market for a Solaris Survivor's Guide and switching to FreeBSD or something. All the
jumping ship at the right time.
Like the people that were actually like Solaris and then Open Solaris and it's gone downhill and the Lumos kind of drying up. They need somewhere to go.
Well,
and there's so many differences that you kind of need that Rosetta Stone to convert. Like, a Lumos doesn't have top. They have PR stat or whatever and so on.
Yes. And, well, that's what this is. Mm. And I think a Lumos is going to be around for quite a while. There's a devoted core there. And
a big chunk of it will be gone by the end of this year.
Yes, it will. On the other hand,
too bad.
This is probably before either of you were born, but see, back in the 80s, there was this operating system called BSD, and it died. It was, it was this ignominious fate that was far worse than what it deserved for being such awesome software. And somehow it's still alive, and there's this hard group of lunatics who are pushing it, and some of them are even writing books about it. So I am not going to write off Illumos because they can come back and take over the market anytime. Mm-hmm. So,
well, we'll see. We'll be watching.
There are always operating system vendors screwing up and driving their users away. I'm not going to go naming any names here of any particular ones, but have you read Savaged by Systemd? Anyway.
Yeah, you hear stories, and it's when you're in the operating system space, you look left and right, and the news give you a certain impression of what's going on left and right, and then you make your own, judgment of how your own operating system is doing in contrast to that.
Yes, and it's all the Illumos market or any market really shrinking down, or the community shrinking can be a good thing, because anything radically new is started by one or two people who pick something up and run with it. That's what Dylan did with Dragonfly. That's what Theo did with OpenBSD. It's always a few small critical people who take something and run with it, and everybody else is out of their way, and they just do it.
That's how we got ZFS and FreeBSD.
Yes. That's how FreeBSD
lock
converted
Pavel in a basement for 3 weeks, and it's done.
Yeah. If Peter Wem had not taken a weekend and made the decision as a core member and a member of cluster admin to convert FreeBSD from CVS to Subversion, we'd all still be using Subversion.
Yeah. Or if he hadn't decided, it's hammer time.
CVS.
Who knows when we would have got AMD 64 support?
Yes. Yeah, it's always some small group of people.
Yep, and they have the stamina to, run with it the first time and then entice other people to join the effort. And
yep,
because otherwise it's not sustainable if they're running it for years and years on their own time and energy.
Well, I think we all know that vision is a great thing. It's a wonderful, powerful thing. But vision without code behind it isn't really anything.
Sure. Yep. But speaking of vision, how did the first absolute FreeBSD came about? Did you have a vision there as well, or how did you, come up with that, the very first one?
Oh, the very first one. Bill Pollock at No Starch asked me to write it. Is the short answer.
Simple as that.
I had a column with O'Reilly at the time, Big Scary Daemons.
Oh, yes, I remember. And Drew's column also. That was also,
for a while there, O'Reilly was really trying to expand into the BSD space. So I did a BSD column every 2 weeks, and Bill Pollock was looking for a BSD author. Someone pointed him at those articles. And so basically, I took all of the articles where I was trying to figure stuff out and polished them and glued them together. Because when I started writing those columns, the truth was I had no idea how anything worked. I would decide to write an article on slices and disk labels because I had no clue what this, like DA0S1A, what the hell does this mean? Mm-hmm. So I wrote a series of articles as I figured that out for myself. And that led me to try stupid things like a multi-boot laptop it had this massive 6 gig drive.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the day. So I wanted to share the swap space between Linux and FreeBSD. And in theory, that would be just fine. And it turns out it really was. But thankfully, we have virtualization these days, and multi-boot is not really much of a thing anymore. Some folks need it.
With the UEFI, you can just put both bootloaders in this little fat partition, and magic happens.
Yes. People talk about the good old days, but they weren't that good.
They weren't at all.
They really weren't. I mean, without modern medicine, I'd be dead. So, without modern software, someone else would be dead.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of wasted efforts and time wasted.
If we didn't have ZFS, I don't know how I'd be building these 1 petabyte storage arrays. Because just thinking about how you would do that with anything other than ZFS gives me the horrible sense of dread in my soul.
Oh, well... We did this back in the day. You would use Geom, and UFS2, and you would stripe everything together, probably as a RAID 10. And remember, there's no disk labels. Or sorry, there was no labeling of partitions on the disk.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to have a monster spreadsheet giving slots and drive numbers and device numbers, and you had to compile the kernel to wire down the devices. And I actually, it's out of reach, but there's a bunch of that in the original Absolute BSD.
Mm-hmm.
So I recommend you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't go back to those.
I don't want to know what the FSCK time on a 1 petabyte UFS2 would be.
I'm not worried about the time. I'm worried about the memory use.
Mm. Yeah.
So, yeah, don't go there. That's one thing that really struck me as I was going through this and writing this, how much I had to throw out. And how much has just gotten easier. A lot of FreeBSD's rep from the old days is just wrong. Binary updates work beautifully. Port snap does have a bunch of subsidiary commands for doing all sorts of common tasks, but really, what you want to do is run port snap auto.
Yep.
And it just does the right thing.
Yeah. Or,
poof.
Use PKG instead.
It's not all of us can do that.
Right.
But really, you run port snap and put it in Poudrier and distribute your custom packages built with LDAP everywhere or without X or whatever your particular need is.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is that you don't have to be a wizard to use all these because they have sensible defaults and make it easy for people to use them. And you can always do more and complicated stuff, but the defaults are really easy and make it easy for users to get into it and run something.
Yes. I mean, looking at older editions of the book where, okay, a security alert has come out. Here is how you patch. Here is how, okay, when do you need build world? When do you need build kernel? When do you need both?
And now it's like FreeBSD update, fetch, install.
Yes. And I think that
at the end, it tells you if you need to reboot or not.
Yes. Yes. Which reboot? You need to reboot.
Yes.
Just
reboot always helps.
Yes. And I kind of think that the old ways kept people from wanting to issue security updates. We have my web server at 11.1 had 40, 50 patches, and they're trivial. I would apply patches while shaving in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's so easy.
Although the FreeBSD update stuff makes
them.
Generating the patches in the first place a little more work, but
yeah,
we're working on that.
Well, I'm sure that there is a lot of assistive scripting behind that, and it's clear that the FreeBSD devs are not ones to put up with prolonged pain. If it can be automated, they try to automate it.
I don't know. If you ask most of them, I think you would say that's what being a FreeBSD dev is, just putting up with constant pain.
Yes, but you get to choose your pain.
Yeah. So speaking of work and pain, so what are you working on now? What's next?
I'm working on, finally, the Jails book.
Ah, yes. People have been waiting for that.
That's been
they have
2 years in the...
I wanted to write a book on jails because jails are cool. But I really needed to write a book on how devices work. And then I really needed a bunch of information on ZFS.
Which turned into two books instead of one.
Which turned into two books. So, and then there's stuff like NullFS and DevFS. So that was the specialty file system book. This is the first book I have written that is kind of deliberately not for newcomers.
Yeah, it's kind of at the end of this dependency chains of other books you need to have read first.
Yes. I mean, IO Cage makes deploying jails very, very easy. But if you don't understand how ZFS clones work, and you keep your jails running for a while, you're going to run out of disk and be kind of stumped. So I'll throw in a sentence in there about, these are clones, and you need to plan to replace these or add more disk because otherwise you're doomed. But if you don't know why using clones gets you into trouble, this is not the book where I explain it.
Right. It's, chapter 5 in this book over here.
Yeah.
Cross-reference. Yeah.
And I'm also working hard to I don't want to turn the book into advertisements for everything else I've written, because that's just rude.
Mm.
Well, and some of the stuff you can assume the reader maybe already knows, but if not, references over here.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you're describing jails in general, but also jail management frameworks, because there's a bunch of them out there now, and
yes,
you always get asked what's the thing that we should put in the FreeBSD handbook, which is the one true, and we were always like, well, the thing that you like best.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm recommending either IO Cage, the new one, or just using the raw etsyjail.conf. There are other management tools out there. Some of them, like EasyJail, is a little old. Some of them are not as well developed. But IO Cage has some people working behind it and is under active development and works pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm going with. And if you don't like my choice, you can use something else. CBSD is also very nice, but it's also a front end for Beehive. And Beehive really is a separate virtualization book.
Yeah, that shouldn't be intermixed with the jails.
Yes, so I may touch on CBSD in a later book, but I'll need to write Beehive before that.
And, it might help if it was slightly less of a moving target before you try to write a book on it, right?
Yes, I can't write on Beehive until they stop rototilling it.
Mm-hmm.
So when they tell me it's safe to write the book, I will write the book.
Okay. So what else are you working on?
Oh, let's see. I have a novel I'm working on an hour a day, just to keep my brain loose. It's called Terrapin Sky Tango. It's a sequel to Butterfly Stomp Waltz, and people have been beating me up for that book. So I'm trying to get it out, hopefully by the end of the year. And those are the things I am actively working on at the moment.
Did I miss the release of the sequel to Git Commit Merger? Is it already out?
No. Okay. The short answer is writing cozy is hard.
Okay.
Creative pause.
Yes. It's cozy mysteries are the second most difficult genre to write after romance. They have a very strict form. And right now, I found as I was working on the book, I track my words per hour. And I usually write fiction at about 1,200, 1,500 words an hour. And that was slowing to 100 to 200 words an hour. Yeah. My brain does not want to be working on cozies. I want explosion. I want gunfire. Action. I want teeth and spleens flying through the air. So that seems to be where my subconscious is going right now. So there it is.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you could also base it on a different BSD conference that you're visiting. So it shouldn't be the one from the previous book.
Yes, it's actually at a different conference. So
it goes around, yeah. So
it goes around, yes. So there's no problem there. It's just my natural literary instincts involve bad people with knives. And that is not a cozy mystery.
Right.
Okay. So what are your plans for next year, if you can look that far ahead already?
My plans for next year, write more books.
That's a good start.
Yeah, that is the plan. Keep going. Keep trying to give value for money. I have one of the hard things about being a writer is, I don't really report to anyone. There is no manager except me.
Mm.
And I'm kind of a jerk, so I ignore me. But I have people who, like my Patreon backers, motivate me to keep going every single day and produce stuff because they're sending me the Patreon membership or support of me really is a bad deal for those people. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate every one of them, but financially they'd be so much better off just buying the books. But they support me and they want to have my back and I'm grateful for them. So damn it, I got to make some words. 8 hours a day I have to be here clattering away.
For me, it was mostly about making sure that there is a next book.
Yes. There's
different motivations.
That.
Yeah.
The first book I offered up for sponsorship, the Advanced ZFS I did with Alan. Right after the money came in for that, my hot water heater exploded. And I had exactly enough sponsors to pay for the water heater. So that drove home that I need to appreciate these folks. So thank you all. And really just thanks to everyone who keeps buying these things. 'Cause that's all I really want to do is write books.
Yeah, and we want to read the good books, so there's a win-win.
Oh, good books? What good books have you been reading?
I don't know. Not an author you would know.
Okay.
So after, looking at next year, maybe you have something more in the current time and date. So you have these semi-bug meetings?
Yes. Third Tuesday of every month. Southeast Michigan BSD user group.
Okay, and how's that going?
Is it growing or how's that going?
It grows, it shrinks, it grows. The important thing with a user group is you meet at the same place, same time, every month, so that people know where to find you. They can come back weeks or months later, and there you are. So we've had some really good talks, and stuff like we had someone come out giving a talk on BSD for the blind. He's a blind programmer.
Interesting.
And apparently BSD is very useful for the blind. It's a lot more friendly than some of the visually impaired Linux distributions.
The fact that we still like text for everything turns out to be useful.
Yes, and apparently there's problems with some of the Ubuntu CDs, because I think it's Ubuntu. Don't hold me to this, but he had a nice little rant about how the software for the blind is only usable if you happen to have the ability to see.
To install it, to be able to start using it.
Yes, yes. So we had that. We had one of our members built their own cloud on OpenBSD and is using Android without Google.
Ooh.
Yeah, very cool. Now, a lot of our speakers and members haven't spoken much at all. For a lot of them, it's their first time speaking. So we don't actually record the talks. I do encourage some of them to submit to places like BSD Can or Besides Detroit, because some of them turn out to be really good.
Well, I think that's one of the important parts of the user group, is kind of being this growing or testing ground for that type of thing, to help take someone who's never spoken before and just keep giving them a progressively bigger audience as they get comfortable with it, and help them grow the talk into something useful, so that by the time they come to something like BSD Can and are in front of hundreds of people, it's not the first time they've done any public speaking. And it makes their talk work better, so it's better for the audience, and they're more comfortable with it, and it's just better for everybody.
Yes. And the thought of being on YouTube forever for their first talk is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, for certain. It happens. But before you know it, there's a video.
Of all the talk of BSDs dying and so on, it's been very interesting to see the kind of resurgence of the user groups recently. I know there's the one in Sweden started up and it's been going very strong. I think it's only every 2 months, but it's been having 20 plus people every time, so that's definitely strong. The Polish user group has gotten so big they had to get a bigger venue.
Excellent.
They moved from the company's office to the university to be able to fit everybody. And then I've heard of 5 or 6 other ones starting up recently, and it's good to see that part get going again.
Yes, well, the internet hasn't just made BSD come back, but it's made it easier to find people who are interested in your area.
Yeah, and who don't want to, going to conferences is nice, but if you have someone in your immediate vicinity you can ask or that can help you with a problem, that's priceless. Otherwise, you have to wait a year before going to the next conference and maybe finding someone there. And the closeness is the key to keeping your own interest sparked.
And we do talks, but ours are very informal, and a really critical part of our meeting is actually the Coney across the street or across the parking lot. You don't even have to cross the street to get there, because we start our meeting with asking questions. And you don't get any answers during the meeting. But it does tell you who to sit with at dinner.
Yeah.
So you can hook up with different groups of people who know your topic while you eat dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And the waitress there knows us by now and knows what we drink, and makes sure that there's warm fresh rice pudding with extra cinnamon. So that's the critical advice for any user group, is be nice to the wait staff.
Mm-hmm.
They supply you with important ingredients, food and stuff. Yeah, it's definitely something that people also look forward to in a month. Next week's the meeting again, and meet the people again and talk about BSD, because most people don't have they cannot talk about things like PortSnap or Poudriere in their day-to-day life, or wherever it is, they are surrounded by non-BSD folks, and they are happy to have some like-minded people at least once a month or twice per. And then having someone to talk to and get ideas from, that's certainly valuable.
Yes, well, and that's where new users come from. I mean, we had a new person show up last month who is porting OpenBSD to an ARM board that I had never heard of.
Uh-huh.
And it has this ARM board he picked because it has 2 network interfaces.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to sit down with Nick Holland, who used to maintain the OpenBSD FAQ, and get a nice tutorial on how to submit this and how to work with the community. And it's, in some ways, it's very straightforward stuff, but that's what new users need, is someone to say, oh, here's the basics.
Yeah, so some of that initial onboarding stuff is just that much easier with a high bandwidth medium like being in person versus email and IRC and so on.
Yeah, let's sit together on the laptop and I show you a couple of things, and then immediately you have the benefit of someone helping you and avoiding some of the errors you did when you were a newbie. So that's certainly beneficial.
Yes,
and FreeBSD's had the culture of mentorship. Once you get to a certain point, then you get mentors and you go on to become the committer, but we're missing some more at the early parts.
Well, I think that has to be done person to person.
Mm-hmm.
And user groups are vital for that.
Exactly.
And if we can bring in new people with gentle introductions, and our group is pretty mellow. We have a diehard Linux user who shows up because he likes the people.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we're working on him.
It's not indoctrination at the whole meeting. It's, sharing ideas and
For me, it was a slow process over 2 years, but I turned this Linux person into a FreeBSD sysadmin, and now they're giving talks at BSD conferences.
Excellent. That's how you do it.
Just show them
you
the
work
light
on one mind at a time.
And you show them the light a little bit at a time so you don't blind them.
Yes. So I think that's about all I have.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm talking at mug.org the night before this goes live, so you should go back in time a day and watch that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I'll be at Meet
We
BSD.
gave people the link and stuff to it last week, or I guess 2 days ago when it came out. So maybe they won't have to time travel.
Yeah, well, hopefully. Yeah, I saw I made your show 3 times. I think that's a record.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for certain.
I'll be at Meet BSD, and if you go to mwl.io, that's my website. When this goes live, I'll have links for these auctions. So these will be unique, signed, one-of-a-kind things from Meet BSD, signed by everyone I can get my hands on. So anyone in the world can win that for donations to the FreeBSD and OpenBSD foundations.
Yeah,
so give them your money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if that's not enticing, I don't know what is. We can only ask people to go to conferences, but with something special in there, that's certainly, hopefully, bringing more people in. Yes. Oh yeah, so thank you, Michael, for your repeated appearance on our show, and keep writing. Good luck with your book endeavors, and we'll talk in a year or so, or even earlier.
Well, anytime you guys want.
Yes, well, plus we'll abuse you in person in a couple weeks.
Oh, absolutely. I'm, and one of these days, I will learn how to spell your name. I promise.
By then, it'll be too late.
Well, worst case, I'll write it on a little index card for your eulogy.
Okay.
Yeah, the gravestone will have his name, so
yes,
easy to
maybe a rubbing.
There you go.
You have a good day, gentlemen.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
too. So, we hope you liked our interview with Michael Lucas. Remember, he will be back in future episodes, so keep with us. But now it's time for feedback and questions. First person who wrote in today is Paul with recent Beehive-related videos. So the message goes like this. Good day. My name is Paul Webster. I recently released some Beehive-related videos on YouTube and was requested by one of your team members to send them in as something of possible interest, probably Alan. So here's a link to the relevant playlist, and you have the YouTube links in our show notes, of course. And the next video setup will be installing FreeBSD manually, like through the shell, and getting started that way, likely followed by how to over PXE or Pixie. So thank you for your time, Paul Webster. And another small one on the ZFS install is also linked here on YouTube.
Yeah, so if you've been interested in playing with Beehive and needed some help getting started, this user has created a bunch of videos. Check it out.
Yeah, very nice to have people, not just us explaining things, but also people, take the time and effort. Because recording on video, it turns out, is difficult, and you need to have a couple of tries before you get it right. So we're glad that someone is taking up that challenge. So our next question is from Michael, another Michael, starting or going about FreeBSD update. So this goes. First of all, congratulations on your show, and I've been enjoying it since the first episode. Oh, wow. It helps me keep up with so many BSD-related things I would otherwise be missing. Keep up the great work. Yeah, thanks. I mean, feedback like this is always welcome, and this keeps us going. So the message continues with, I've always, since the days of 386 BSD and Minix, enjoyed building my system from source. Recently, on your recommendation, I got a digital Ocean droplet where I use FreeBSD-update and package to keep things up to date. It occurs to me that I'd love to convert some of my slower systems, the single atom core or the Raspberry Pis, to these mechanisms, as building from source takes in excess of 24 hours. Yeah. Is there a way of side grading a system running stable to release, or, for example, going from FreeBSD 11.2 stable to FreeBSD 11.2 release, patch level 3?
Yep. So FreeBSD update's not available for the Raspberry Pi, but for the Atom and so on, yes. FreeBSD update will go from whatever you have to the version you target. You can also, to help it, you set the environment variable all uppercase uname _ lowercase r to the release that you're going from. Since you're on 11.2 stable and FreeBSD update's not going to have a thing for that, you'll switch it to, say, 11.1 release and tell it you want to upgrade to 11-2 release. And you're running that command, and it will replace all the files on your system with the 11.2 release patch level 3, and you'll be upgraded. And then package already is, once you enable it, you don't package upgrade, and it will replace your ports with the packages. Remember that package doesn't know about any of your customizations, though. So if there's any ports that you have compiled with special options that you need to keep, you'll still want to compile those ones with ports. But yes, upgrading with FreeBSD update from anything to the release is easy enough. Just set the release you're starting from with the uname _ r variable, environment variable, to one version older than what you have or whatever.
Yeah, and then it will give you options when it needs to merge config files to pick the right one.
So that'll probably be the most difficult part of your upgrade from 11.2 stable to 11.2 is that if you tell it you're coming from 11.1, it's going to compare your config files against 11.1, and there might be a lot of merging, and it'll be slightly annoying. But other than that, it's easy enough to do. The other thing you could do is do one last source build of the release and get to like 11.2 release P0, and then use FreeBSD update from there. And then you can not have to deal with the merge conflicts as much. But yeah, you can do that with FreeBSD update.
Yep. Make snapshots, make backups first, and then you should be ready in case something burns up. All right. Yeah, that's it. And A couple people asked us about FreeBSD update. Oh, I'm unstable and I cannot use it anymore. So, but this uname_r environment variable is the one thing that you need to set, and then you can use it like before. All right. Next up is sigflup with package search or package file search. It's short and quick. How do you find out which uninstalled package a file belongs to? I have a build that's dependent on ccar, and I would like to know what to package install. I'm totally in love with the show. Thank you for all the work that it takes to maintain it. Oh, thank you.
Yep. So luckily, our friend Rodrigo Osario has built exactly this. So it's a package you install called pkg-provides, and it's a plugin for the PKG tool that adds a provides subcommand. So you can do kind of like on, I think Yum does this, but you can do pkg provides ccar, and it will tell you which package provides that file.
Yeah.
So
and then
just
you will
pkg install pkg-provides. And once that's installed, it'll add itself as a plugin, and then you can package provides ccar, and it will tell you which package you need to do that.
Yeah, that's perfect too, because sometimes you don't want to install this whole bunch of packages just to find the right one that you need. With this tool, you can find exactly which file is in that package, and then you decrease your overall packages that you have installed just to find that one.
Yeah, it's nice because even doing the search of the ports tree only tells you about the main things. It doesn't actually tell you about what files are inside the package, especially with some packages that have hundreds or thousands of files in them.
They're big, yeah. I mean, it shows you the build dependencies and the run dependencies, but not individual files that are in there. So that plugin is very helpful from Rodrigo. So yeah, thanks for that. And again, if you have also questions like this or any other type of questions, if you found a good blog post that we should cover in the future, send this to feedback@bsdnow.tv and it will appear in the future episode we're going to record. So yeah, that's the end of this show for this week, and see you next time.
Bye.